Oh.
Yeah, nice announcements. Was right with the gavel.
All right, we'll call the meeting in order at 6:31, Citizens Advisory Committee. Caroline, we call the roll, please.
Erin Gill, not present. Frank Kinsella,
Present.
Robert Zippel,
Present.
Ellison Falwell. Here. Lauren Lewis, not present. Raj Vinat, not present. Justin Fields,
Present.
Kathy Sutherland. Here. Dan Kenny,
Here.
Steve Mink, not present. Lonnie Wong Bassett. Here. Mayor Burton, not present. Edward Von Runnen, not present. We have a quorum.
Very good. Public comments. Do we have any public comments? So they will be given 3 minutes. Anything that is not on the agenda.
If any of the participants joining us via Zoom would like to make a comment on something not on the agenda, you may raise your hand. Very nice.
No. Okay, has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes in the previous meeting?
And 2 sets of minutes.
Pardon?
2 sets of minutes, one March and then April.
On the next page. There you go. Okay.
I move.
Do we need to do them separately or can we do them both together?
It's separate.
Let's do it
Separate?
separately.
All right. I will entertain a motion for March 25th.
I'll second it.
That was Dan
Dan.
moved and Bob
Bob.
second. Okay.
Proceed with the roll vote, please.
Frank Kinsella.
Here.
Then yay.
Yes or no? Yeah or no?
I'm sorry.
Robert Zippel,
Yes.
Ellison Falwell,
Yes.
Justin Fields,
Yes.
Kathy Sutherland. Yes. Dan Kenny,
Aye.
Lonnie Wong Bassett.
I think I have to abstain, right, since I wasn't present,
You do not have to abstain.
then yay.
Maybe.
Okay, minutes are approved. Now for April 25th minutes.
I make a motion. Second.
Ready. Frank Kinsella,
Yes.
Robert Zippel,
Yep.
Ellison Falwell,
Yes.
Justin Fields,
Yes.
Kathy Sutherland. Yes. Dan Kenny,
Aye.
Lonnie Wong Bassett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Minutes approved. Raj just showed up. Opening report. I really don't have a report prepared, so I will pass that. Do you want to talk about this, Carolyn, about the new chair, vice chair, or do you want me to?
I can, I'll introduce the item and then I'll hand it over to you.
Right ahead.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So on April 13th, our current Vice Chair Steve Mink emailed staff and the Chair Justin Fields to let us know that he was going to be no longer fulfilling the role of Vice Chair. Although he is planning to stay on as an active CAC member. So with that, we will need to fill the now vacant vice chair position. The procedure will be, our chair will open the floor to nominations. Any member of the CAC can nominate anybody, including themselves. Then we can take up to 3 nominations on the floor at once. And then once we're done, the chair will close the nominations and then we'll vote. And then the vote will start with the last nomination to the first nomination.
Very good. Does anybody have any nominations? Or you can include yourself. Yes,
If
Kathy.
you're interested, I'd like to nominate Allison.
You're already sitting next to me.
That face is not a reflection of my interest, but I still feel like I'm learning and I'm really new and I don't feel like I don't feel like I have enough to contribute in that capacity yet. I'm still really learning a lot, so I would decline the nomination this year, but maybe another time.
Don't make you cry.
Sorry.
Anybody else nominate somebody?
I don't think that.
I second that.
And I would accept.
Would or will?
I will.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
There was a flat following.
I would want, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, we have Kathy nominated. Is there any other nominations? All right. And we'll proceed with the vote then.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Frank Kinsella,
Yes.
Robert Sipple,
Yes.
Allison Falwell,
Yes.
Raj Banat,
Yes.
Justin Fields,
Yes.
Kathy Sutherland,
Yes.
Dan Kenny,
Yes.
Lonnie Montpasset.
Yes.
Carrie? Congratulations again. All right, our next item, review draft fiscal year 2024-2025 Citizens Advisory Committee work plan and recommended approval by the board. Directors Lee and Mark. Looks like Lee is up to bat first.
That's right. I beat Mark out, so.
Go.
Good evening, members of the CAC. So I am Lee Rauscher, Assistant General Manager, and I'm excited to bring before you for consideration an updated draft of the fiscal year 24-25 CAC work plan. As a refresher, the CAC work plan aligns with the agency-wide board-approved work plan, which the board will receive on June 13th. At the March 25th CAC meeting, Mark and I walked the committee through a draft CAC work plan and received feedback from committee members. All right, let's see if this key works. It does. 6 years, and I think I finally freed out the laptop. Let's see. So based on the feedback we received and some new opportunities to engage this committee, sorry, and I don't know how to work the laptop because it went too far. There we go. That's the slide I'm really looking for. So tonight I'm sharing 3 additions to the work plan based on the feedback that we received and some new opportunities that we think the committee has in the upcoming year. After sharing those additions, I'm happy to take your questions or recommendations for final edits for the work plan. And then the staff recommends that the committee votes to have the staff bring the draft to the board for review and approval. Which will likely be on June 27th. And although neither June 13th, when the board hears the agency-wide budget and work plan, or June 27th, when they review and hopefully approve the CAC work plan, neither are joint meetings with the CAC. That doesn't mean that you cannot attend. You're always welcome to attend as members of the public and make comments in that way. So I just wanted to throw those dates out there for your calendars. All right, that's where I want to be now. So the first addition to the draft CAC work plan is to objective number 1, where the goal is to acquire and communicate knowledge of the agency's history, initiatives, and opportunities and interactions with the public, and bring public input to the committee, staff, and board. So staff anticipates that outreach to help educate the public in the coming year about the authority's work will be particularly impactful. So we added a possible task to this objective, which is participate in outreach opportunities to educate the public about the authority's work. Very simple and straightforward. And in fact, we feel so strongly about this one that you're going to get a presentation from Mark shortly about what some of those opportunities might look like. All right. Objective number 4. The goal here is to contribute perspective and expertise to significant agency endeavors in partnership with staff. And at our last meeting, Mira Burton suggested that committee members could play a larger role in supporting the authority's social media, blog posts, and other methods of communication. And we added a possible task here to incorporate that great idea. So share content created by the Open Space Authority and ideate content ideas for use on the Open Space Authority's social media, blog posts, newsletter, and other media platforms. All right, and the final addition is to grow, the goal here is to grow the professional development of the CAC members. And to that end, we recommend a few specific trainings for governance and some guidance for the conservation topics. When the work plan is approved, Caroline will be able to share some links to CSDA, California Special Districts Association. Their website has many free trainings, including the two that we cited here, Keeping Up with the Brown Act and the Sexual Harassment Prevention training, Rosenberg's Rules of Order. We've got some links we can share. Those are not through CSDA. And then regarding conservation, we're pointing out especially topics timely and relevant to the authority's priorities. I know conservation is a rather large term, so trying to narrow it down a little bit. And I'm sorry, I don't know if I mentioned, but those trainings at CSDA are at no cost. All right, so those are the only changes since we saw each other back in March. Can I answer any questions, or is there maybe any additional feedback or final edits to the plan?
Thank you. So I had one because I think I mentioned it, Mira or Lonnie agreed that if you could give us dates when we had to take trainings by, it would be much easier if I received an invitation and put it on my calendar than had to find it. And so a little bit more direct from you all that, you know, you need to take this training. Here's your opportunity would make me a better participant.
So if something is required, then give us a date.
Yeah.
Would this committee like to make trainings mandatory? That's up to you all. Or are you suggesting at least send a link and perhaps a suggested timeline?
Probably word suggested.
Beautiful.
And that please do this.
We can help you with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so something like, these are the dates they are happening.
Mhm.
We encourage you to do so, but it's not.
Right, and it's part of your objective number one.
Great. Thank you.
I need to be.
And if we're not gonna make it mandatory, but it's highly recommended. If you already possess all of, because I get the training through the county and 5 other things, and I'm a master instructor in most of them myself. So should I just let somebody know that I got all those things?
That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I add to that? If it's not mandatory, it might be interesting to see the percentage of individuals each meeting or every couple of meetings that we meet, how many do the trainings? If there's a timeline attached to them, then we can say, oh, like 2 of them or 50% of you went and did this thing, and that would be encouraging, I think, to the rest of us to make sure it gets put into our Google calendars and Zoom calendars and all that.
Very good.
How frequently are the trainings?
The trainings that we were referencing are on demand, so you can take them anytime that you wish. Most of them, well, I'll say many of the trainings are an hour or 2 hours, and we can let you know that in the email to you so that you can plan your time. The beauty of these two are you can stop and you can start at your leisure, at your convenience. So they're really flexible. There are some that are live. I'm not sure how many of those are as relevant to this committee, but we can let you know that too if it's a live presentation versus on demand.
Can I ask a non-training related question?
Yeah.
But I don't want to change the topic if there are other questions about comments. So under objective one, I found it super helpful that it was so specific to say participate in at least 3 volunteer activities. Such as outreach, groups, etc. Because it sets expectations about what you expect from us, and that I find that really helpful. Part one of the question is that over the course of the year? To participate in 3, I was thinking not.
Yeah, great question. So the work plan is designed for the fiscal year, so July 1st through June 30th, a 12-month period.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then the other question is, are there other, where it lists possible tasks, are there other tasks where there are expectations, specific expectations of volume of commitment, like in that one? Because that was the only one I saw that had like a participate in at least 3. I don't know about others, but I found that really helpful. So if there are other expectations that the Open Space Authority has of us in terms of how often we do something, or how many of some things we do, that would be super helpful. So that we can plan our year in terms of what we might be interested in.
Thank you. That's a great suggestion. Some of the other opportunities, they differ from those kinds of trainings in that there may be a presentation about a particular project. It's a one-time thing where we've got staff coming to the committee to present about a project that we're working on, or you're going to hear about outreach. There are many opportunities for outreach over the course of a year, and perhaps as a committee, you might consider setting a bar, or what are folks comfortable committing to. But thank you for the next year, we can look at where we can be more specific and quantify things. Yeah, thank you. Mark?
Yeah,
If I may?
If I might, just add to that, I think, yeah, in terms of requirements regarding the work plan, I think it's just the 3 activities that you mentioned. But then, other things are what's mentioned in the employee handbook, like attendance at these meetings, things like that. That's the only other thing I wanted to point out, but that's not specifically related to the work plan.
Any more questions or comments? Okay. Yes, I will ask for a motion to recommend this for approval to the board.
I'll make a motion.
Through the chair, do you want to ask if there's any public comments?
Is there any public comment?
If any members of the public who are joining us would like to comment on this item, you can please raise your hand. There are none.
How many members of the public do we have? 2. Okay. Okay, so I have a motion.
Yep, in a second.
And Dan second.
Frank Kinsella. Robert Sickle,
Yes.
Allison Falwell,
Yes.
Raj Vanath,
Yes.
Justin Fields,
Yes.
Kathy Sutherland. Yes. Dan Kenny,
I.
Lonnie Wong Bissett. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Mark. Community outreach to educate the public regarding open space authority. Yeah.
Good evening, CAC members. Mark Landgraf, Assistant General Manager. I wanted to talk to you tonight about
I'll make it better.
the height of the microphone.
Ooh, I swear I can do this. There we go.
Okay, thanks. I figured if I speak in a low voice, then the sound goes down to it anyway.
Oh.
No?
Good math. That works.
Anyway, so, but one of the items that was on the work plan that Lee just presented is this community outreach. And as you learned at the joint board CAC meeting, we were talking about the potential for a funding measure this year. It still hasn't been decided. There's still a lot of moving pieces regarding that, but especially at a time like this when it's really important to get the message out about the good work that we do, the important work that we do. This is a time when we want to make some extra effort to bring information to the public. And that's what I wanted to talk tonight to you about. with some opportunities for participating in that outreach. So this is about raising awareness to talk about, of course, the benefits of nature. That's the reason that we do our work, all the benefits that provides to nature itself, but of course to the public and our communities. And to build awareness about the Open Space Authority itself as well. There's still a lot of people who aren't familiar with us or confuse us with county parks or Mid-Peninsula Open Space District. So we want to build awareness there too. And so the process that I'm suggesting, I'm certainly open to other ideas as well, but we want to make it easy. We want to, facilitate as much participation as we can, especially since the topic in some regards can be a little bit sensitive. We want to talk about the possibility of a funding measure, but not that there is one, or, and sometimes the questions that members of the public might have can be a little bit nuanced or difficult. And so what I'm suggesting is that you as CAC members, and this is again, not an obligation, but an invitation to participate, would make suggestions about forums, ideally forums that already exist, where we could make a presentation. And I'm happy to give the presentation, or there's other staff that could do that. If a CAC member was interested in co-presenting, we could certainly work that out too. But I think that way, the staff that has the greatest amount of information on some of these involved issues can give the talk, but it's the CAC member making that personal connection to, let's say, for example, a neighborhood association that has a regular series of meetings, or it might be a user group that has a monthly meeting, like mountain bikers or hikers or runners. It might also be like a green team at a large company that meets on a regular basis, and they invite speakers. So these are forums where a talk could be given with PowerPoint slides and opportunity for question and answer. It would be really important to have those opportunities through your respective networks to provide information. Of course, if one of you was interested in just giving the presentation, I think we could provide some training on some of those more subtle questions, and certainly provide resources. I have a slide about that too. We have resources that we would provide either in the forum, and we as staff would bring those, or like I said, if somebody was interested in giving the talk themselves, we can work that out, and you would have these flyers that I think each of you has one of these in front of you. And this is newly created with updated information about our messaging regarding nature as infrastructure, nature's benefits, the work that we do, a little bit of our history, and then on the back, talking about, and this is just lightly seeding the conversation about a funding measure, right? But it's talking about that it's time to grow our investment in nature, and then talking about growing needs for funding. So it just lightly touches on it, but it's helpful in that kind of situation. We have a PowerPoint that I'll show you in a moment. Also talking points, and then, as I mentioned, one of the resources is OSA staff. So here's the flyer that you all have in front of you, but showing it here on the screen for those attending virtually, so that they have an image of what that beautiful flyer looks like as well. And I want to thank the communications team and consultants for putting this together. It really came out well. And I want to also point out that on the back of the flyer, there's a QR code. So that's to a page on our website that will have more information. It already exists, but it'll over time have more information as the process moves ahead with a funding measure, should the board select to put one on the ballot. And then there's already quite a bit of work that's been done on a draft PowerPoint. These are some of the slides that I'm showing you here. It's not completely finished, so I'm just showing some example slides, but each of these PowerPoint presentations would then be customized for whatever the audience group that's being presented to, the date, presenter, etc. And then there's some very simple but image-heavy slides that are designed to be attractive, but still facilitate telling of our story. So I'm just going to roll through some of these slides here quickly and you can see, just have an impression of what the slides look like. So, key to these, to the message that we want to get across to the public or whatever group we'd be presenting to is that nature is important to everyone, right? Nature serves as infrastructure. Nature serves as defense against extreme weather events. Nature, it provides healing, and nature is for everybody. And then here's a little bit about how the authority does its work to provide nature and provide for the protection of nature. And then, of course, there are some more slides coming. But some of these slides that are still to be inserted here will have some relatively specific information about the number of acres that we manage that has grown over the past, especially the past 10 years. And those 10 years are the 10 years since we've last passed a new funding measure. That was Measure Q. Measure T in 2020 was only an extension of the existing funding. So in those 10 years, our expenses have increased. We're providing more benefit to the public, but our revenue is flat. And so that's basically the message that would be put across through a few graphs in that regard. And so those are the resources that would be available. And, we're happy to invest in putting the talking points together, finishing the slides, and attending these events. But what we really need your help with is making those connections, because we're only connected to so many people. We try to build our network over time, but you all, as representing the community in different ways, I think have so many more connections that we'd like to, I don't want to say exploit, but make good on, right? So that we can get the message out to more people.
Utilize.
There we go. I love that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You're you're on point for coming up with the language for our talking points.
Can you go back to the last slide?
Yeah.
It's where it says purchase land and permanent protect it. Doesn't the authority also hold easements? Would
Yes.
that be something that needs to be added in this slide somewhere, or?
We should clarify that. I think that's
Add that in there.
yeah. And yeah, I guess you could read the second part of that phrase as permanently protecting it through a conservation easement, but the way it's written makes it sound it's only through
Right.
acquisition. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Thank you. Yeah. Oh,
The other one that always catches my eye is the willing sellers, right? That's, to me, one of the key things that makes this organization work so well is that it's never taking land. As a way to, I don't know if it just gets too wordy, but to include it, that it's from willing sellers.
we do strongly, oh, and through the chair. We do strongly prefer to work with willing sellers. Yeah. And as you know, there is currently a proceeding for eminent domain, but yeah. But we do strongly prefer to work with willing sellers. And so that's something that I agree we would want to emphasize.
Question. Okay.
Then may I take this opportunity, Mr. Chair, to ask if there are any suggestions off the top of people's heads for any groups that they know of that might be a good example of where we could give a presentation?
I was taking down notes. I was thinking of the Capitol Club. There's a couple of different groups that meet at the Capitol Club in downtown San Jose. I know of one individual who does the actual organizing of different events. So I was thinking maybe there. I also know of a person who runs a public access show called SV Tags and focuses on like technology within Silicon Valley, but also taking care of like our planet at the same time. So maybe she'd also be into that. And I don't know if that would be on her show or if what she would want to do, but those are the two things that came to my mind, for me at least.
Thank you.
Um, I'm gonna throw an idea out. I'm a member of the mayor's Guadalupe River Task Force. And we've been at it 3 years, and our quest is to clean up the river and clean up the park and make it what it's supposed to be. Is that an area that you might be interested in speaking at?
Through the chair, is there a forum at which people gather to hear?
Supposedly the most influential people in the city, which I don't necessarily say that. I might do a little probing to find out how it would work, because most of the time our meetings are really packed trying to solve problems.
Hmm.
But part of the whole idea is we're trying to make it an open space and a non-contaminated river and open to the public. So that's our quest.
Hmm.
So obviously equal ideas. But
And
I don't know, I can take a look, or I'll question a couple of people and see how they feel about it before I go barking up the tree.
and you mentioned that's the mayor's task force. Is it connected to the Guadalupe River Parks Conservancy?
They're part of the group also.
Okay,
I'm also part of that group.
because there's a nexus there since we've in the past
Correct.
provided urban grants to that organization. But I think something like that would be a possibility. But to your good point, yeah, we don't want to take away time from other work that needs to be done. It's lots of times the forums that work best are where they invite speakers to learn more about some topic that
Correct.
somebody brings up.
Absolutely. I'll do it probably first.
Okay, thank you.
I had one idea that came to mind, which is, but I'm gonna noodle on this more, so, more to come, but. I have a number of friends who are very involved in, Garner, you might be as well, in the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition, which might be a really kind of preaching to the choir group of folks. I don't know what their forums are in terms of meetings or, but I can find out because that strikes me as a like-minded group of folks who would be, if they're not already engaged with open space, might be very interested in learning more about the work.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. And that's an organization that we provided urban grants to before as well.
Comments, suggestions? Kathy?
Orchard City Indivisible and South Bay Swing Left are two groups, excuse me, that meet around the Campbell area.
Hmm.
That I think would be natural allies.
Okay,
So I will reach out to them.
thank you.
Anybody else? If anybody comes up with any ideas, contact Mark with them,
Yeah,
forward them on him.
yeah. And if not, we might be reaching out to you individually as well.
There you go.
Just to prompt. And if I may, just as a closing remark, I just want to mention that should our board decide not to place a measure on the ballot this fall, this is still important work to do, and we're building awareness then for perhaps a future ballot measure. So I just wanted to mention that in case, since it's still unknown whether that will happen or not.
Okay. Is there any members of the public that would like to comment? You'll have 3 minutes to do so.
If any members of the public joining us via Zoom would like to comment, please raise your hand now. None.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
All right, thank you.
Informational reports. Board liaison.
Hi.
Hi.
I think the most important thing that's. Well, you can hold it, how's that? I think the most important thing that's coming up is that on June the 13th, we'll be having our public hearing regarding renewal of our benefit assessment district. That was our original funding and has remained in place. So that's a very important issue, and Mark can probably give you more detail about that. And then at our last meeting, Mark was giving us updates on a couple of pieces of legislation that are before the state. And also there's some federal legislation regarding how a special district is defined. And that's important to us as a special district. So those are about the most important things that the board has been looking at. And staff has been doing a great job in keeping us updated.
Renetta, are there any new acquisitions?
No, we haven't had any new acquisitions. No. No, and I think the most important thing that's gonna be forthcoming is going to be on the area around the shooting range. It's part of the Tilton Ranch original that Post acquired. And everybody's looking at exactly how that's gonna be planned out. So that's kind of where some of the attention is now.
Sporting.
Yeah, around that, of course, they have a lease that's still in place. And so how will that be managed and what kind of trails could you have? If that remains in operation for an extended period of time. And the Morgan Hill Police Department has a shooting range also there, and they're anxious to keep that. So there's a lot of wants from that particular piece of property and a lot of people to be served.
Do we know how long the current lease is on the sporting clays?
It's only about 2 years remaining, I think. That's
Okay.
2 or 3, it's not 5 or 10 or anything like that.
And is that,
And
they're gonna be renewed or?
I don't think that it's gotten that far. At the moment, the property's not owned by the Open Space Authority. It's owned by
Okay.
Post, I believe.
Through the chair, it's currently owned by the Valley Habitat Agency, and so it's up to the Habitat Agency whether they want to renew that lease.
And I will say that my understanding is that the folks have been contacted and there's a lot of interest in the gun community to keep it
Mhm.
open.
Thank you very much. General manager, staff, important.
Good evening again, members of the CAC. Just a couple of quick items. So in reference to Director Annabelle's mention of legislation, AB 2682 is legislation that would change our Enabling Act. And just as a quick recap, that would allow us to do land acquisition in the Diablo Mountains east of Coyote Ridge. It would increase the threshold for the amount the general manager has the authority to write contracts for, except in the case of construction contracts. It would allow us to create CFDs, those are community facilities districts, and also allows us to give senior and low income exemptions in a funding measure, which we currently are not able to do. So that passed the Assembly 4 on a strong vote in favor, and it's now on its way to the Senate. So we'll keep you apprised of how that goes, but so far so good. And then the federal legislation that Director Annabelle was referring to is HR 7525. That's a bill that just simply defines special districts at the federal level. There's currently no definition, so there's not a lot of attention paid to special districts. They're not as common around the country as they are here in California. So that legislation passed the House, and I think it's currently in the Senate. We'll see how that goes as well. One other thing too, since there was a reference earlier to the eminent domain action, I just wanted to let people know, since there are questions from time to time, that there is a hearing that'll take place on July 18th, and that's for a motion of summary judgment that would just seek to define whether the authority has the legal right to take that action. And then if that hearing passes with confirmation that that authority exists, then there would be a trial probably set for towards the end of this calendar year.
Who makes that decision?
A judge.
It's a judge, okay, it's a trial, okay.
Thank you.
Or in court, I should say.
All right, good evening again, committee members. Lee Rauscher, Assistant General Manager. And I have a few highlights from our successful spring engagement activities on other properties. Although the weather patterns were maybe a little more challenging for us this year than we would have liked for some of our outdoor activities. Staff is really pleased with the education events they were able to hold. So far in 2024, educational and docent programs hosted 681 members of the public over 37 docent-led hikes, with 34 of them having to be canceled due to weather or muddy trail conditions. So bodes well for probably doubling, the folks we can get out on the property next year, weather willing. Folks attending these hikes gave the team really positive feedback, raved about the beautiful scenery, of course, but also how much they learned from the docents, which is very exciting to us. The team also held outreach events at Mexican New Year, which was a new venue for the Authority Kaiser Earth Day, Santa Clara Environmental Literacy Summit, that's a mouthful, and the Morgan Hill Annual Earth Day event. Each event had its own successes and learnings, and if it's of interest to the committee, Mr. Chair, we'd be happy to bring you an update in the future with the team's takeaways. We're also sneaking up on a year, not quite there, but we're getting there, a year of Mayan Oyakma Coyote Ridge open for operation. So staff is beginning to hold debrief sessions, first internally, actually later this week, and then eventually we'll be talking to volunteers as well. So we can get firsthand accounts of folks who've been out on the ridge, what their experiences were and their thoughts for improving operations going forward. And staff is aiming to bring new recommendations to the board later in the summer, maybe early fall. And then we could bring those, that same information to the CAC as well if there's interest. And two other things, inside the office, we're currently recruiting for an external funding coordinator to support our grant program and seeking outside funding from foundations, state and federal programs. So as always, sharing this opportunity with your networks would be greatly appreciated. And if you need a link, please let me know. It's on LinkedIn. That's an easy place for folks to go. And the last item, Carolyn, do you want to cover the event for you?
There is an event being held at the Children's Discovery Museum. It's the ribbon cutting for the exploration portal, which you might remember you guys helped fund. And that's going to be Friday, June 21st at 11 a.m. So I did send you guys an email, but I'm happy to send a reminder. So please let me know if you'll be able to attend.
Thank you, thank you. Committee members, anybody have anything to report? No? This is the record. Thank you. Subcommittee reports. No?
Well,
Dan, you almost missed the adjournment. Well, that's ours.
people have itched the cake here, but new hours, they're probably gonna come in, it's an empty bill.
Yeah, is that something we need to look into? I mean, this was the 6:30 was kind of a temporary time.
We have, at the last meeting, we voted for the next 2 dates. So,
And the next
in
one.
the July one.
Okay,
And then we can agendize it for July.
so the July meeting, we'll discuss to see if we want to carry on with that. Okay. Very good. If there's nothing else, then we will adjourn.